Would you say that every wedding is an accident waiting to happen and therefore a fertile ground for comedy?
Yeah, you know, emotions are really heightened in weddings. Like, I'm not talking about movies, just in life. All of those family dynamics come out at weddings, and fights break out, and you know, between kids and parents and all of that. And so I think that's why they're often in, you know, in movies, and have been in these sorts of stories since Shakespeare. You know, Shakespeare comedies always end with a wedding. So,
I wonder about your wedding movie inspirations, because there's quite a few of them. Wedding movies, I mean.
Oh yeah, it's weird. I didn't like go to that many wedding movies. I always go back to When Harry Met Sally. There's, you know, I use some of the music from a musical called Little Night Music. That's a Stephen Sondheim musical, and that story I think informed some of the movie a little bit weirdly. I was really focused on the specific story I was telling, which while the wedding is the story that's happening, it really is about these two characters falling for each other and dealing with their relationships with Will with his daughter and Reese with her sister. So
what comes first with you when you're writing? Is it an idea, a conflict, or are these the characters?
You know, usually it's it actually, in this case, it was the high concept. So okay. I thought of the double book Destination Wedding first, a long time ago, and then I was like, I don't have the characters, I don't know what that would be. That's a funny concept, but that's nothing if you don't have characters. And then I basically, after I finished Bros, I was like, I really want to revisit that. That just seems like a funny idea, and I really want to work with Will Ferrell and Reese Witherspoon, and they seem like that would be a fun area. And so I started to really force myself to think what would be fun dramatically about this idea. Okay, so you have Will and you have Reese, and you had some experience with comedy duos. What makes a good comedy duo? And why them? Oh yeah. It's, they have to be able to yell at each other and you think it's funny. Okay. It's very simple. If the two characters can yell at each other and like you think it's like dramatic and a bummer, then it doesn't work. But you need to be, so it's like, again, with When Harry Met Sally, Harry and Sally yelling at each other is the funniest thing in the world. And so it's the same thing with this. When they're yelling at each other, it's hilarious. Because you have to walk the line, because they hate each other and they like each other at the same time. How do you walk this line? I mean, it goes back to like literally screwball comedies. It goes back to, you know, keeping up Shakespeare stuff. It goes, there's that thing where they're at each other's throats, and then the reason that you're fighting with someone is because there's something that's intriguing to you about them. And so I think that, and they also care so much about their relationship. Like she cares so much about her relationship with her sister. He cares so much about his relationship with his daughter, and that those intense emotions cause them to kind of take their own stuff out on each other. You mentioned screwball comedy, and it is, in a way. There's strong screwball energy, definitely. Would you call it romantic comedy, then? I call this a com-rom, because it's more comedy than... And the story is really, you know, not to get into technical language, but the B plot is their romance. The A plot is Will's relationship with his daughter and Reese's with her sister. And she has to figure out to resolve her relationship with her family, and he really has to deal with his daughter. And so that's kind of the real stuff that they're dealing with. And then as they do that, they fall in love. But that's not the main plot, if that makes sense. It has been said that rom-coms are dying. Would you agree? And if so, why are they? I mean, I think rom-coms will never die, I don't think. I think that people like to see characters fall in love. They're always going to take a new shape. I think that a lot of it's gravitated to television. You know, and those sorts of stories are told on TV, and people love them on TV. But I think there's always going to be, you know, I mean, this is a really weird example, but The Brutalist I wouldn't say it's comedic, but there's like a real romance at the center of that. So it always takes different forms. I have to ask you about alligator set piece. And I wonder, do you worry about realism of it, or is comedy king, and if it's funny, then it goes? I call that a big swing. I wasn't sure if it would work. As I was shooting it, I was like, I don't know if this will work. And it's all about the details when you're doing a big set piece like that. So I was like, one of the things was, I was like, if he had brought the alligator here, he'd be muddy, the bed would be muddy, it would be gross and dirty. And so there's like details like that. I also made sure the alligator was small enough that you could believe he would do it. And then I shot it, and then was like, until we tested the movie, and when I tested it, I was like, I don't know if this set piece is gonna work, and then it totally worked, and I was like, whew. But you know, so that was my process with that. But I was nervous it would be too broad. And it's also just like Neighbors, I think, a story about generational and lifestyle conflict. Is it something that interests you as a theme, or is it just strong dramatic conflict? I'm like all of us, obsessed with getting older. You know, when I was young, like dying, like all of those things. These are all the things I think people think about. And
the stuff of comedy.
The stuff of comedy. I mean, it is. It kind of is. It's kind of the easiest way to talk about this stuff. And so it's definitely something that I am obsessed with and think is fun to discuss in movies because it's a safe way to do it.
Okay, thank you very much.
Well,
it's been a pleasure.
Thanks. Yeah.